My fiancée texted, "So sorry mom's sick, have to cancel our anniversary dinner." I saw her location on Find My Phone and knew she was at her ex's, so I just replied, "No problem." Then I ordered our $350 steak dinner delivered directly to them. She texted, "Can't make it tonight." I just said, "Sure." That night, I ordered dinner for two delivered straight to her ex's apartment with my name on the bill. The look on her face when she opened the door to the delivery guy was, I'm told, priceless. They were in the middle of a movie, comfortable in his high-rise apartment. My fiancée, Chloe, and her ex-boyfriend, Ethan. Then the doorbell rang, an unexpected interruption. The delivery guy stood there holding a large, fragrant bag from the most expensive steakhouse in the city. He checked his phone and said, "I have a dinner for two for Chloe." She was confused, but before she could say anything, he finished the sentence. "It's from..." Dramatic pause, twos. "Liam." Her face, I heard later, went from confusion to shock, and then to pure cold rage. She knew. In that single moment, she knew that every lie she had carefully constructed had just been burned to the ground. She had been checked. "I'm Liam. I'm 29, a data analyst. My world is made of numbers, patterns, and logical conclusions. I find comfort in spreadsheets and verifiable facts. For 3 years, I thought my world also included Chloe. Chloe, my fiancée, was 27. She lived in a different world. A world of aesthetics, of networking events, and personal brands. She was an assistant to a celebrity publicist, and her life was a curated feed of brunches, exclusive parties, and borrowed designer clothes. I thought our differences were what made us work. I was the stable ground, she was the beautiful, chaotic storm. I now realize I wasn't the ground. I was just the wallet. We'd been living together for a year in my apartment. I was saving aggressively, mapping out a future that included a down payment on a small house in the suburbs, a place with a yard for a dog, a future. Chloe was also saving screenshots of luxury vacation spots and $5,000 handbags. When I'd bring up our 5-year plan, she'd smile and say, "Of course, babe, we're a team." But her actions told a different story. Her half of the bills was often late. She'd forget her wallet when we went out. Small things easily forgivable. Red flags I chose to color green. Looking back, the data was always there. The little comments she'd make in front of her friends. When they'd ask what I did, she'd say, "Oh, Liam works with computers. It's very technical." The way she'd slightly diminish my career, my life, as if it was a quaint hobby compared to the real world of her boss's Hamptons getaway. She'd talk about her friend's boyfriend, a hedge fund manager, or another one's fiancé who just launched a disruptive tech startup. The comparisons were never direct, just little pinpricks. "Can you believe Jessica's boyfriend just surprised her with a trip to Paris?" Just because. "Isn't that amazing?" she'd say while looking at me. It wasn't a question. It was an invoice for my inadequacy. I ignored it. I loved her, and I believed in the plan. I thought once we had the house, once we were married, she would feel secure. The ambition would calm down. What a fool I was. The plan was for our 3rd anniversary, the first, since our engagement, to be special. I made a reservation at the Gilded Sparrow, the restaurant she'd been talking about for months after seeing it on some influencer's story. It was a 2-month wait list. I'd booked it the day after our 2nd anniversary, a quiet, strategic move I was proud of. I was going to give her a small, perfect evening, a glimpse into the stable, wonderful life I was trying to build for us. That Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. "Hey babe, so sorry, have to cancel tonight." My stomach tightened. I typed back, "Everything okay?" Her reply came instantly. "Mom's suddenly really sick, I have to go over and take care of her. I feel terrible." My first instinct was concern. Of course, family first. I replied, "Don't worry about it at all. Let me know if you need anything. I can come with you." Her response was a little too quick, a little too firm. "No, it's okay, she just wants me. You just stay home and relax. I'll text you later. Love you." It was that last part, the "stay home and relax," that felt wrong, like a command. A data point that didn't fit the pattern. A single tiny red flag that this time refused to be ignored. That text message sat on my screen, a glowing anomaly in 3 years of data. My heart wasn't racing, it wasn't broken, it was processing. An analyst doesn't get emotional when a dataset is corrupted. He quarantines it and runs a diagnostic. So I ran a diagnostic. My first move was simple. I picked up my phone and called Sandra, Chloe's mom. I kept my voice light, friendly. "Hey Sandra, it's Liam. Just checking in. Chloe said you weren't feeling well." Her laugh came through the phone loud and clear. "Oh, Liam, honey, that's sweet of you. I'm fine as can be. In fact, I'm on my way to my weekly poker night with the girls. Haven't missed it in 5 years. She must have gotten her wires crossed." The line clicked as she hung up, oblivious. The first piece of evidence. The lie confirmed. There was no anger, just a cold, sharp clarity. Like finding a critical error in a line of code. The entire program was compromised. My fingers moved with a practiced efficiency. I opened our shared banking app. I didn't care about the balance. I cared about the transaction history. There it was. A $12 charge from a ride-sharing service time-stamped 20 minutes before her text. I tapped on the details. The drop-off location wasn't her mother's suburban house. It was an address downtown, an address I knew. The Lux, a new, obnoxiously trendy condominium complex. The same one her ex Ethan had posted on his Instagram story last week with the caption "New Beginnings." The second piece of evidence. The location of the lie. Accelerate. My thumb hovered over another app, the one we'd installed for convenience. Find My Phone. We used it when one of us misplaced our keys or wallet. It felt intimate, a small circle of digital trust. I tapped it. A map loaded. A small pulsing blue dot labeled Chloe sat precisely on top of the Lux condominium building. The third and final piece of evidence. The undeniable real-time proof. The diagnostic was complete. The system had failed. It was time to execute a new protocol. A normal person would have driven over there. A normal person would have screamed and cried and created a scene. But I'm an analyst. I don't create scenes. I analyze them. And I knew the scene she was expecting was a fight. The drama, the tears, the begging that was her desired outcome. It would give her power. It would make her the victim. I decided not to give her the scene she wanted. I would give her one she couldn't possibly anticipate. I picked up my phone, but I didn't call her. I opened the app for the Gilded Sparrow. I canceled my reservation. Then I went to their online ordering platform. I ordered the exact meal we were supposed to have. The 32-ounce porterhouse for 2. The truffle macaroni and cheese. The bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon she loved. And the decadent chocolate lava cake for dessert. Total cost $350. I entered the delivery address for the Lux apartment, 21B Ethan's apartment. I'd seen the number in his Instagram post. In the special instructions for the delivery driver, I typed a simple, clear message for Chloe. "When you deliver this, please be sure to read the name on the order aloud. The name is Liam." I paid with my credit card. The confirmation screen glowed. The move was made. A checkmate delivered by a guy on a bicycle. It wasn't about the money. It was about the message. It was a statement of fact delivered with perfect, irrefutable clarity. It said, "I know. I see you. And I am not playing your game anymore." Then I got to work. My next call was to my lawyer. I explained the situation calmly, factually. He gave me a checklist. I started on it immediately. I logged into my personal bank account and transferred 50% of our joint savings, the portion that I had contributed from my own salary, and a small inheritance, into a new account under my name only. I took screenshots of the transactions, documentation. Then I walked into our bedroom. Her side of the closet was a testament to her priorities, racks of clothes, many with the tags still on. I didn't touch them. I packed one suitcase, my clothes, my toiletries, my laptop. I looked around the apartment that was supposed to be our home, our future. It no longer felt like mine. It felt like a crime scene. And I was done being the victim. The explosion began at precisely 8:15 p.m. It started not with a bang, but with a buzz. a single insistent vibration on the coffee table where I'd left my phone. It was Chloe. I let it go to voicemail. A moment later, a series of text messages began to pour in, a digital tidal wave of her unraveling. The first was pure confusion. "A delivery guy just showed up here." I didn't reply. 30 seconds later, "Liam, what is this?" "He's holding a bag from the Gilded Sparrow." Another 30 seconds. "Are you trying to embarrass me in front of Ethan?" "The driver just read your name out loud. What is wrong with you?" And then the mask came off completely. The final text was a chaotic jumble of rage and victimhood. "This is insane. You're psycho. You've completely ruined my night. I can't believe you would do something so childish and vindictive. After I told you my mom was sick, you have serious problems." I read the messages without a flicker of emotion. The data was simply confirming my hypothesis. I typed one single reply. "A calm, clean execution. I thought you'd be hungry after taking care of your mother all day. Enjoy your meal. We're done." I hit send. Then I turned my phone on silent and placed it face down on the table. The full picture of the fallout didn't come into focus until the next morning, when an unknown number called me. It was Ethan. His voice wasn't angry. It was cold, clipped, and deeply annoyed. He sounded like a CEO whose quarterly earnings had been messed up by a subordinate's incompetence. "Look, man," he started. "I don't know what kind of passive-aggressive games you and Chloe play, but you can leave me out of it." "It wasn't a game, Ethan," I said calmly. "It was a statement of fact." He sighed, a sound of pure exasperation. "She told me you two were practically over, that you were just roommates until the lease was up. She said you were emotionally distant, that you didn't appreciate her. And you believed her." It was a convincing story, he admitted. "But last night, when that delivery guy showed up, that wasn't the move of a guy who's emotionally distant. That was the move of a guy who knows exactly what's going on." He paused. I realized in that moment that I wasn't her next chapter. I was just a character in her current one, a tool to make you jealous or a safety net to jump to. Either way, I'm not interested. He told me that after she'd sent her barrage of texts to me, she had tried to salvage the evening with him, tried to laugh it off as me being a little crazy and controlling. But the mood was ruined. He saw the lie. He saw the manipulation for what it was. He was a man obsessed with his own image, and she had just made him look like a fool. I told her she needed to leave, Ethan said. She tried to argue, tried to cry. I told her I don't do drama. My life is complicated enough. So there she was. Kicked out of her lover's high-rise, standing on a downtown sidewalk at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, with a $350 bag of cold steak in her hand. I can only imagine the phone call she made next. The one to her mother, Sandra. The story must have been a masterpiece of spin. Not I got caught cheating at my ex-boyfriend's apartment, but something closer to Liam had a complete breakdown and stalked me. He sent food to my friend's place. I'm scared. Whatever she said, it was just the opening act of her next performance. A performance that would only dig her hole deeper. And I was content to sit back and watch. She came back the next day in the late afternoon. I wasn't there. I was at a quiet coffee shop across town, a new laptop open in front of me, methodically untangling my digital life from hers. But I saw everything. The smart doorbell camera I'd installed a month prior for security. I'd told her became my silent, objective witness. She didn't approach the apartment, like someone returning from a mistake filled with shame or a desire for reconciliation. No, she walked up to the door with the brisk, annoyed confidence of a manager arriving to discipline an underperforming employee. Her shoulders were back. Her chin was high. In her mind, she was the wronged party, the one who had to come back and clean up the mess caused by my emotional, irrational overreaction. I could almost hear the speech she'd rehearsed, a carefully crafted blend of tearful apologies for her moment of weakness and firm admonitions about my toxic, passive-aggressive behavior. She was here to negotiate the terms of my forgiveness. She reached into her designer handbag, the one I'd bought her for her last birthday, and pulled out her keys. She selected the key to our apartment, a little brass key on a fluffy pink keychain. She inserted it into the lock with a familiar, almost careless motion. and then nothing. The key slid in, but it met a solid, unyielding wall of metal. It wouldn't turn, not even a millimeter. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. She pulled the key out, stared at it as if it had personally betrayed her, and inserted it again. This time with more force, jiggling it, trying to coerce the tumblers that were no longer coded to her. The only sound was the useless metallic scraping of a key against a lock that now considered it a stranger. The click of a successful entry never came. She tried the doorknob. Locked. Of course. The confusion on her face curdled into disbelief, and then dawning horror. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a sticky lock. This was a deliberate action. A closed door. She knocked a sharp, three-rap burst of impatience. Silence. She knocked again, harder this time, the sound echoing in the empty hallway. Finally, she pulled out her phone. My screen lit up with her name, a siren call to a drama I was no longer attending. This time I answered. I put the phone on the table, a small black rectangle of judgment, and hit the speaker button. "What did you do, Liam?" Her voice was a low, furious hiss. There was no greeting, no attempt at civility. Just the raw, unfiltered rage of a queen whose decree had been ignored. "I'm not sure what you mean, Chloe." I replied, my voice perfectly level, a calm lake against her hurricane. "The lock. I can't get into my own home." "What the hell did you do to the lock?" "I changed it," I said as simply as if I were telling her I'd changed a light bulb. The silence on her end was heavy, thick with shock. Then the eruption. "You can't do that. You have no right. You can't just lock me out. My things are in there. Half of that is my home. Actually, I can—" I said, my tone still conversational. I was merely stating facts, presenting data. "The lease is in my name only. Legally, you've been residing here as my guest. And your things, every last lipstick and designer shoe, are perfectly safe. I packed them myself. They're in the building's climate-controlled storage unit number 27. I've already paid the fee for the first month to give you plenty of time. You can arrange to pick them up whenever you'd like." She was sputtering now, a stream of incoherent curses, threats, and accusations. "I'm calling the police. This is illegal eviction. You're a monster, a cold, manipulative monster. I'll sue you for everything you have. You'll be sorry, Liam. You have no idea what you've just done." I waited patiently for the storm to pass, for her to run out of breath. The camera showed her pacing back and forth in front of the door, a caged animal. When she finally paused, I spoke. "Chloe," I said, and my voice was so quiet, it was almost a whisper, forcing her to strain to hear it, to give me her full attention. "Our arrangement is over. Any further communication you wish to have can be directed to my lawyer. I will text you his contact information shortly." And then I hung up. In the profound silence that followed as I sat there in that anonymous coffee shop, I didn't feel a surge of victory. I didn't feel anger. I felt a profound sense of clarity. We are all raised on a diet of dramatic confrontations. We're taught by movies and television that strength is about the shouting match, the witty comeback, the final crushing argument that leaves your opponent speechless. We believe we have to enter the arena and fight to win. But I had just learned a more powerful, more fundamental truth. The greatest strength, the most decisive victory, lies in the power to simply choose not to participate. My quiet exit from her life, my refusal to engage in her chaos, wasn't the act of a coward surrendering. It was the ultimate strategic move of an analyst who, having run the numbers, concluded the entire game was flawed and no longer worth his investment of time or energy. When I hung up that phone, I disarmed her completely. I took away her greatest weapon, the emotional battlefield she craved. The tears, the accusations, the circular arguments, she thrived in that chaos. By refusing to enter the arena, I rendered her entire arsenal useless. I shifted the narrative from her manufactured outrage to my quiet, indisputable action. It is the great, powerful paradox of these kinds of conflicts. Sometimes the only way to truly win is to refuse to fight. You just have to calmly, methodically walk away from the chessboard. You take your most important piece, your own dignity and self-respect with you. And you leave them there all alone, staring at the empty, meaningless boards that they themselves are responsible for clearing. On the other end of that silent line, there was no witty retort, no final plea. There was only the dead air of defeat. The sound of a queen suddenly and irrevocably finding herself with no one left to rule. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. It wasn't a slow decline. It was a domino collapse, a chain reaction of consequences she had set in motion herself. For Chloe, a person whose entire existence was built on external validation and social standing, losing me was only the first smallest part of her loss. The true devastation came when she realized she hadn't just lost a fiancé. She had lost her entire support structure. Ethan, as he later confirmed, was the first domino to fall. His rejection wasn't born of loyalty to me or some moral high ground. It was a cold, calculated business decision. Chloe, by getting caught so spectacularly, had become a liability. She was no longer a beautiful, exciting addition to his life. She was a messy, dramatic scandal waiting to happen, a stain on the pristine brand of Ethan. He was a man who curated his life as carefully as she curated her Instagram feed, and she had just posted something irrevocably off-brand. He didn't just ask her to leave. He blocked her number before she even reached the lobby. The next domino was her mother. Humiliated and furious, Chloe arrived at Sandra's house expecting a sanctuary, a place where she would be comforted and told that I was the monster. But the lie was too blatant this time. Sandra had been caught in the middle of it, made to look like a fool to the man who was about to become her son-in-law. For the first time, the unconditional support faltered. There was no coddling. There were only sharp, disappointed questions. What were you thinking, Chloe, lying to me? Lying to Liam? In Ethan's apartment. Did you think this would end well? Chloe's attempts to spin the narrative to paint me as the villain were met with the exhausted sigh of a mother who had seen this pattern one too many times. She could say yes, but the house was no longer a fortress of validation. It was a holding cell of shame. But the most telling collapse, the one that truly revealed the hollow nature of her world, came when she reached out to her friends. Her network. The glamorous women she went to brunch with, the ones who liked all her posts and commented with fire emojis. She called her best friend Jessica, another publicist's assistant, undoubtedly expecting a night of wine trash-talking and affirmations. Instead, she got excuses. "Oh, tonight's impossible," Jessica said, her voice laced with a sudden, uncharacteristic distance. "I have an early work thing, and my apartment is a total disaster right now. You wouldn't be comfortable." Chloe then tried another friend, then another. The responses were all variations on the same theme, a polite but firm closing of doors. It surprised me for a moment how quickly they all turned on her. But then I understood. The relationships she had built, including her relationship with me, were constructed on a completely different kind of foundation. I'd just never had the vocabulary for it until now. In sociology, there's a concept called social capital, and it comes in two main forms. The first is bonding capital. This is the strong stuff, the deep ties you have with true friends and close family. It's built on trust, shared history, and genuine affection. It's the friend who lets you sleep on their couch, no questions asked, because your well-being is their priority. My world, I realized, was small, but built almost entirely of this. The second form is bridging capital. This is the weaker stuff. It's the vast network of acquaintances, colleagues, and connections you make. It's built on utility, shared interests, and most importantly, image. These relationships are useful for getting a job or an invitation to a party or a recommendation. But they are transactional. They are conditional. Chloe's entire world was made of bridging capital. Her friends weren't friends in the way I understood the word. They were network contacts. They were drawn to the image she projected, an image of a beautiful woman with a stable, generous fiancé living a life they all aspired to. They came to the parties I paid for. They admired the apartment I rented. They complimented the clothes she bought with the money she was supposed to be contributing to our future. She was a valuable asset in their social portfolio because she was connected to me. The moment I was gone, the moment the financial stability and the respectable image I provided vanished, her value as a social asset, plummeted to zero. Those friends weren't betraying her. They were simply acting according to the unwritten terms of their relationship. When the utility is gone, the connection dissolves. She had become drama. She had become a liability. She was in their cold calculus, a bad investment. She was left with nothing. No fiancé, no lover, no home, and no friends. She was an influencer with no one left to influence, a social climber standing on a ladder that had just been kicked out from under her. She hadn't just lost a relationship. She had just witnessed the complete and total bankruptcy of her entire way of life. The contrast between our two new realities was stark, almost poetic. Chloe's world, once a vibrant landscape of social events and carefully curated appearances, had shrunk to the four walls of her childhood bedroom at her mother's house. The daily drama was no longer about which exclusive event to attend, but about navigating her mother's quiet disappointment and facing the crushing weight of her own poor choices. Her phone, once a constant stream of invitations and validation, was now mostly silent. She was living in the quiet, uncomfortable aftermath she had created. My world, on the other hand, had also become quiet. But my quiet was different. It wasn't the silence of isolation. It was the silence of peace. I'd come home from the coffee shop that day to an apartment that felt both empty and incredibly full. The physical space she occupied was gone, but so was the constant low-grade hum of her anxiety, her needs, her unspoken expectations. I could breathe. For the first time in 3 years, I could hear my own thoughts without interruption. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and my laptop. I logged into my bank account. There it was, a significant sum of money sitting in the account I had labeled Our Future. It was the wedding fund, the house deposit, a digital monument to a future that no longer existed. A part of me, a small petty part, was tempted to spend it on something frivolous. A new car, a lavish vacation, something I could post online, a final silent victory lap. But that wasn't me. That was her game, her way of thinking. My victory wasn't in showing off. It was in building something real. I didn't buy a car. I didn't book a trip. Instead, I spent the next hour researching. I found an advanced certification course in machine learning and data science, a high-level program I'd dreamed of taking for years, but had always put off because it was too expensive or not the right time. It was an investment not in a fleeting experience, but in myself, in my skills, in my own future. I paid the full tuition, thousands of dollars, without a moment's hesitation. The confirmation email that landed in my inbox felt more satisfying than any designer watch or fancy dinner ever could. It was the feeling of taking the resources meant for a shared fraudulent future and redirecting them into a singular, authentic one. My life didn't become a whirlwind of parties and dates. It became mine again. I reconnected with old friends, the ones Chloe had always politely called a little boring. We didn't go to trendy clubs, we went hiking, we played board games, we had conversations that weren't about social climbing or who was seen where. I spent a weekend helping my friend Dave build a deck in his backyard. The feeling of working with my hands, of creating something tangible and useful, was a therapy session in itself. I started cooking for myself, again simple meals that I enjoyed, not the complicated Instagram-worthy dishes Chloe always wanted to try. I rediscovered my love for reading, for quiet evenings with just a book and a glass of whiskey. My apartment was no longer a stage for her life. It was my sanctuary. I wasn't celebrating my freedom. I was simply inhabiting it. I was rediscovering the man I was before I'd tried to contort myself into the man she wanted me to be. And that man, I was starting to realize, was someone I actually liked. I was building a new life, not on the ruins of the old one, but on a fresh, solid foundation of my own making. It was 2 months later. The storm had long passed, and my life had settled into a new, quiet rhythm. The chaos of Chloe felt like a story that had happened to someone else, a case study I had analyzed and filed away. My business was growing slowly but steadily. I had my weekends back. My apartment felt like home. Then one evening, as I was making dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. The message was short. "Liam, it's Chloe. I know you have every reason to hate me, and I deserve it. I've been going to therapy. I've been thinking a lot about what I did. I was a terrible person. I'm so sorry for everything. I just hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I miss what we had. I read the text once, then a second time. It was a well-crafted message. It hit all the right notes: accountability, therapy, remorse, a hint of nostalgia. The old me, the me from 3 months ago, would have seen this as an opening, a chance to talk, a chance for closure, a chance maybe to salvage something from the wreckage. But I wasn't that person anymore. I held my thumb over the screen, over the little block of text that represented 3 years of my life. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't even feel pity. I just felt done. The data was in. The analysis was complete. The conclusion had been reached. I pressed and held the message. A small menu appeared. Without hesitation, my thumb found the word delete. The message vanished, leaving a clean, empty screen. I put my phone away and went back to chopping vegetables for my dinner. The action was final, quiet, absolute. Many people who heard my story, my friends, even my lawyer, called it the perfect revenge. They were impressed by the cold logic of it all. They focused on the outcome, the fact that her life imploded while mine took off. They saw it as a victory, a karmic checkmate where the good guy won and the bad guy lost. And for a while, maybe I saw it that way too. But sitting here now in the calm of my own space, I found myself asking a different question. What if it hadn't been so perfect? What if after I left my new business had struggled? What if I'd had to fight for every client and scrape by for a year? What if she had, against all odds, gotten her life together with Ethan? Would my decision still have been the right one? The answer, I now understand, is an absolute, unshakable yes. We are all drawn to the story of a satisfying outcome. We have a built-in outcome bias, a tendency to judge the quality of a decision based solely on its results. A successful result means it was a brilliant move. A failed result means it was a foolish one. But that is a deeply flawed way to measure the value of a choice. The true victory of my story was not the successful business. It was not the financial independence. It was not even the sweet, satisfying justice of her downfall. The real defining victory happened in that single silent moment I discovered her lie and chose to hang up the phone instead of starting a fight. It happened when I chose my own dignity over a comfortable, toxic relationship. The success of leaving isn't measured by a bank account. It's measured by the peace you reclaim for your own soul. That peace is the real prize. The thriving business, the new life, the quiet evenings, that's all just a wonderful consequence, a beautiful bonus. The real win, the one that changed everything, was the decision itself. The victory was in choosing myself. I finished my dinner, washed the dishes, and sat on my balcony looking out at the city lights. I thought about her text one last time. I miss what we had. And I realized with no malice, no anger, that I didn't. I didn't miss the anxiety, the constant low-level feeling of being not quite good enough. I didn't miss the curated life that was meant to be looked at, not lived in. She wanted a life that looked good from the outside. I had finally built one that felt good on the inside, and that I knew had made all the difference.